I'm not good with expectations. When it comes to my own expectations, I often miscalculate how quickly I can learn something, how much time I have available, how focused I am, and how quickly I can create something new. When it comes to progress, I rarely meet my own expectations. And although that sounds discouraging, it doesn't bother me too much as long as I know I've made an effort to improve. I feel just fine. But that feeling of being satisfied with my effort changes once the expectations are external, like the expectations of a teacher or the expectations of an audience. They don't know about the process and the hours and the effort. All they hear is the outcome. They judge that performance on that exact day. This is something I'm having a hard time accepting. It's the root cause of my stage fright. It's what keeps me awake at night, and it's what eats up my appetite prior to performing. In this vlog, I'll take you through my hours of learning a new song, Country by Keith Jarrett, which was a task assigned to me by my piano teacher. I had 1 week to come up with a way of playing it, and when I then returned to my teacher, I knew I'd have that performance on that day as a basis for my feedback, and I was sweating just by the thought of it. So here we go. I started out by listening to different versions of the song. Keith Jarrett is a phenomenal piano player, and I wasn't planning on playing any of his versions. I knew that I'd have enough of a challenge in just doing the basic stuff. I proceeded to playing along using bass notes only. And once the structure of the song got more ingrained, I began playing along using triads. I then spent quite some time practicing the melody on top of the bass notes. It surprised me how slow I was at sight reading this. I also practiced the half-note triplets to make sure I was sharp on those. I added a metronome to make sure I was right where I should be. Once that felt somewhat natural, I added a second note to the left hand. I was aiming for either the third or the seventh of each chord respectively, as these notes capture more of the chord quality. I added a third note to the left hand with two goals in mind. The first goal was to leave no doubt about which chord was being played, so in most cases I was aiming for the root third and seventh or the root third and fifth. But this was made increasingly difficult by my second goal, which was to make the voicing as spread out as possible. By using a wider range on the keyboard, the chords sound much more dense and rich. This sometimes resulted in me deciding on other voicings like a root 5th 9th type of voicing, because this is still a dense voicing which my fingers can stretch out to reach. I'm really bad at coordinating my left and right hand, so I decided to challenge this weakness by arpeggiating the left hand chords instead of just hammering all the notes at beat 1. Later I added more notes with my right hand at the end of the arpeggio. This was the foundation of my interpretation of the song, but I wanted to make it a bit more interesting to listen to by harmonizing the melody from time to time. I continued practicing at different tempos. I wasn't nailing it at any point, but I decided to move on and practice some improvisation. I kept repeating the first 4 bars and improvised on top of those. My hopes were that I could, at some point, improvise an intro. The improvisation continued and was extended to repeat bar 5 till 8. I had a half an hour practice session I didn't record. I was really tired and the focus was off, but I was still trying to develop my improvisation. I kept practicing improvisation and tried to come up with something which felt like an intro. This is something I'll keep practicing going forward. It's very difficult for me to improvise coherent lines whilst the left hand is arpeggiating. My final practice session before my lesson consisted of slow and controlled practice.
Now, how did it go? Well, 2 hours prior to the lesson, I got really nervous. I did not feel like I was fully rehearsed. I felt like I probably needed 2 or 3 more days to just really nail it in. I felt a lot in my head, and as if the weight of my head had slowly increased while I was losing touch with the rest of my body. And I decided for that reason that I would be going for a workout after the lesson to get grounded again. But at the same time, I was really excited about what these weekly lessons could bring, and I was convinced that I would improve a lot, and the thought of the future really made it easier. I don't really remember playing the song, but I clearly remember finishing and then having this feeling of disappointment and defeat. I had not been playing up to the level I had done when practicing at home, and I was frustrated that although this wasn't a great representation of my level, it was all my teacher had as a foundation for his feedback. Luckily, my teacher seems to be very competent. He saw through the mistakes and instead caught the idea of what I was trying to do, apparently well aware that I just needed more practice time to execute properly. And instead of changing what I was doing, he used his feedback to support my ideas and gave me tools to get me to where I was trying to go. He told me that I was playing the song at a very slow tempo and that increasing the tempo would really help with my flow. He also told me that I was pedaling way too much, which made the melody less clear, and suggested that I try playing the song without any pedaling at all. Lastly, he mentioned that my triplets weren't tight enough, but that they probably would be if I just played the song up to speed. So here's my takeaway from this experience. During the entire week, I was nervous. During the performance, I was nervous. After the performance, I was disappointed with the performance, but after the lesson, I felt somewhat accomplished and less nervous about repeating this process over again. The sensation of a heavy head stayed with me until after the workout and after a cold shower, but then I felt completely fine and I was ready to continue the path of becoming a musician, knowing that nervousness hinders me more than helps me and that I shouldn't be so caught up in how well I'm able to execute a performance. To me, this is definitely calming news, and I hope you can take something from this story as well. Truth be told, the story is a few months old now. I just never got around to filming it and sharing it. I've had some lessons since, and I'm still nervous, but I feel like I can handle the nervousness better. That's very nice. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.